Hello and welcome. We are live. It's Tuesday, December 16th, 2014. I'm your host, Derek J., bringing you Peace News. Yes, we've got a lot to talk about today in the news, the world of peaceful resistance. Of course, you can listen in online at lrn.fm, the Liberty Radio Network. You can also join in via our website, PeaceNewsNow.com/live. There you'll see live video of the show being broadcast and a chat room where you can interact with other listeners. I am signed in there, and I can take questions via the chat room or our call-in line. 443-424-8347 is the Hi-Fi Civ Dis call-in line, as in civil disobedience. You can also Skype Peace News Now, and we'll get interactive. Coming up, we'll be chatting with Kory Watkins of Open Carry, Texas, and hearing about how Texas is considering allowing open carry now. Of course, we're broadcasting from Keene in the Shire, which is in the state of New Hampshire. And, of course, there's open carry here as well. It's a pretty common sight to see someone walking with a firearm. It's not, I would say it's not the norm. Most people that I see are not wearing firearms, but it wouldn't be out of the ordinary. It wouldn't be something strange to see here in Keene or anywhere in New Hampshire. So coming up, what stories do we have for you today? Well, first, our guest, Kory Watkins, will talk about how he used Facebook as sort of a call to arms. And then open carry laws didn't stop cops from killing Tamir Rice and John Crawford. Also, Raw Story reports that Ohio Police Union demands Browns player apologize for wearing a Justice for Tamir Rice and John Crawford shirt. Then we've got a story about the Pirate Bay. The shutdown had virtually no effect on digital piracy, of course, as expected. Ross Ulbrecht won't hear from witnesses against him. Oklahoma Satanic statue is coming along nicely. A woman was jailed for saying F the police. A Harvard grad was pulled over and ticketed for playing NWA's F the Police. And a court rules that a dad can get his 4-year-old son circumcised, but the mom wants a Supreme Court to intervene. The underwear bomber was working for the CIA, reported by The Guardian, not Prison Planet or one of those conspiracy sites. This is The Guardian reporting that the underwear bomber was working for the CIA. Plus, an undercover cop pulls a gun on peaceful protesters and journalists. There's a lot happening this week. Plus, of course, the revelations about torture. And Cheney seemed completely unfazed in an interview this week where he was questioned about an innocent detainee who died being tortured. Well, it didn't concern him. Uber quickly responds to market demand during a Sydney hostage crisis. Congress quietly ends a ban on medical marijuana. And finally, are magic mushrooms growing in Buckingham Palace? All that and more coming up on Peace News. But first, I want to talk about this idea of open carry. I am a proponent. I think it's a great idea that people have the freedom to defend themselves, to have the right. I believe a person has the inherent right of self-defense. You own your body, you own your property. You have the right to defend that property with your life. So, of course, there are scales of this. There are some people like Christopher Cantwell of ChristopherCantwell.com who says you have the moral authority and the moral justification to kill anyone who stomps on your flower garden or steals a paperclip from your porch. Of course, that would be a total dick move, and no jury would find you innocent of those crimes or find you justified in committing those acts of retaliation. It's a little bit of a difference in scale. But nonetheless, then there are those who say that just wearing a firearm is enough of a deterrent to prevent crimes from happening in the first place. Well, let's remember, as Vox reports today, that open carry laws didn't stop cops from killing Tamir Rice or John Crawford. German Lopez reports police officers in Ohio shot and killed John Crawford in a Beaver Creek Walmart and 12-year-old Tamir Rice outside of Cleveland Recreation Center, largely on the belief that they were carrying real guns. Both were carrying toy weapons. But the killings have sparked questions about why police were allowed to shoot two people for holding what appeared to be actual guns in a state where it is legal to openly carry them. Legal experts say that open carry laws and the laws that govern police use of force don't really have much to do with each other. And here's why. 44 states allow their residents to carry firearms openly in public, according to opencarry.org. 30 of those states don't require a permit to open carry. There are also varying regulations from state to state on where exactly an unconcealed gun is allowed. Ohio, for instance, allows open carry without a permit virtually anywhere, with a major exception for keeping a gun in a car, which requires a concealed carry permit. These laws generally allow people to carry guns in public without fear of arrest. Alan Gura, an attorney who helped fight gun control laws in Washington, D.C., said that in a state where open carry is allowed, misuse of a firearm is definitely grounds for formal police intervention, but not mere possession. However, the open carry laws have little to do with whether a police shooting is justified, experts say. As attorney and gun rights advocate David Koppel explained, police officers wouldn't be allowed to shoot someone just because he's wielding a gun where open carry is legal. Now, it would seem to me, just taking a break from this article for a moment, that under the law, as this attorney's explaining, the police had no justification to shoot either Tamir Rice nor John Crawford. But I guess that didn't matter, did it? Well, there's two Supreme Court decisions that dictate police use of force. Officers must show that they had an objectively reasonable belief that a suspect was a threat up to the moment the last bullet was fired. Let's say there's no open carry, Koppel said. The officer has every right to intervene, to arrest, and so forth. But that doesn't mean you can shoot the guy. Unless that person brandishes his gun in a threatening manner, Koppel explained, a police officer wouldn't be justified in shooting. Prior to the Crawford and Rice shootings, police officers reportedly heard from 911 callers that the suspects were waving firearms, which turned out to be toy guns, in a threatening manner. The legal question for the officers involved in these shootings isn't whether Crawford and Rice had the right to carry a gun in public, but whether they reasonably believed that the reported threats were still present up to the moment they shot Crawford and Rice. Open carry laws don't play a role. That's an important distinction. I appreciate that distinction being made by this attorney and this journalist here, because it would seem to me that the officers who came in and observed the situation in both cases were going on the say-so of some 911 caller, rather than assessing the situation with their own eyes and ears and then taking action. Instead, they took action based on the allegations of a third party. A grand jury declined to indict the police officer who shot John Crawford. A grand jury in Cleveland will decide whether to indict Cleveland police officer Timothy Lohman, who killed Rice, in the coming months. Following the shootings of Crawford and Rice, many people questioned whether cops treat black people openly carrying guns differently than their white counterparts. Charles Goodson, head of the Huey P. Newton Gun Club, called it a valid argument. He says his predominantly African-American group, which holds regular open carry patrols and marches in Texas, has been harassed by heavily armed police in the past. In contrast, white open carry protests in the state faced limited police attention despite high levels of media scrutiny. Hopefully, we'll hear from one of those organizers of an open carry protest in Texas when we return. You're listening to Peace News. You can call in 443-424-8347 or send a Skype contact request to PeaceNewsNow.
I love My Magic Mud. I drink a lot of coffee. I had stains on my teeth. Then I found My Magic Mud, and I was told it would remove stains. so I paid attention when I brushed the first time. My Magic Mud is black tooth powder, and the difference it made in my teeth in one application was noticeable. With 4, my teeth were as white as you normal folks out there. Please go to mymagicmud.com and buy a jar. There's 150 applications for $25. You can use Bitcoin, mymagicmud.com.
After visiting his girlfriend of 2 years at her workplace to deliver an unexpected threat for Valentine's Day, violent and controlling boyfriend Matthew Strachan spoke to The Onion about remaining a devoted and committed abuser.
On a special day like today, I like doing something extra malicious for Mallory, just so she knows that I've been thinking about hurting her. I mean, you should have seen the look on her face when I came and surprised her at work today. It was so great. I mean, she had no idea I was going to come to her office to belittle and frighten her. I mean, I wanted to do it in front of her friends to really humiliate her.
Strachan added that while he doesn't always get a chance to inflict harm on Mallory, he tries his best each and every day to create an environment of sustained physical and emotional abuse to leave her feeling completely alienated and powerless.
Just wait till she sees what I have in store for her tonight. I love Valentine's Day.
For more on this story, check this week's Onion Review.
This is the Onion News Network.
Here's a chance to do a little activism while you're cruising Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. Between the LOL cats and the recipes, the hot girls, and the inspirational sunrise memes, Free Talk Live's posts pass by your newsfeed. Like them, comment. It gives us more exposure. If you don't see our posts, click like at facebook.freetalklive.com and then hover over it to click Get Notifications. It's an easy way to spread the ideas of liberty a bit further. I know you're busy, but you can spare that 1/10 of a calorie it takes to click on something. Facebook.freetalklive.com. Khalid lives in Gaza. He makes his living as a taxi driver.
Hey!
Hey, I can hear you.
Test. Can I hear you? Let's see. Turning your volume up.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Perfecto. Good to see you. How are you?
Good. I'm glad I finally figured out whatever was going on with my thing.
Cool. It was probably my fault. I had to invite your email address before you could join the Hangout. I forgot a step. Sorry about that.
Hey, it's all good, brother. Just glad to be here.
It worked out because my first story was about open carrying and how open carrying really didn't change anything about John Crawford or Tamir Rice. Unfortunately, both of them were killed seemingly for simply possession of firearms. And anyway, it's a concern. At least for me, I don't want people being shot just for carrying guns. Seems
right. I don't want people just getting shot for just carrying guns either. That's not a good thing.
Yeah, and one of the last comments in the article was by Goodson of the Huey P. Newton gun club in Texas, and he was saying how the black protests seem to get a lot more attention than the white protests, or they get more scrutiny. So I think maybe at the beginning, so we're coming back from a commercial break in 30 seconds, and when we do, I would like to start out by asking you, who you are, basically, and then how you feel about that quote in the context of, your Open Carry Texas group.
Gotcha. In my group is Open Carry Tarrant County.
Open Carry Tarrant County. Okay, thank you.
Some people will get angry. They're like, "We're not Open Carry Texas," because it's kind of
okay. Well, here we go.
If you enjoy LRN.FM, please contribute to your favorite shows via their websites and become a notifier at amp.lrn.fm. That's amp.lrn.fm.
Welcome back to Peace News. We're live at LRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network, and also at PeaceNewsNow.com/live. There you can see live video of the program, as well as interact with other listeners in the chat room. We're joined now by Kory Watkins of Open Carry Tarrant County. And I was just reading an article about open carrying and how, unfortunately, it didn't affect the deaths of John Crawford or Tamir Rice in Ohio. And I was reading a quote by Charles Goodson, head of Huey P. Newton Gun Club, who said that in Texas, his predominantly African-American group, which holds regular open carry patrols and marches, has been harassed by heavily armed police in the past. And in contrast, he says, white open carry protests in the state face limited police attention despite high levels of media scrutiny. And so my first question for my guest is, what do you feel about that quote? Is that accurate?
Well, I would say sort of, but not really. I wouldn't totally agree with it. Now, let me say this. I have full respect for that gun club and what they do, and I totally support their cause and what they're about. But, you know, when we first started open carrying about 2 years ago, I didn't know if I was going to be shot by police, arrested, or what the case may be. You know, it was very interesting, our first you know, month or so of interactions that we had with police officers, because they didn't know the law and we had to educate them, and we were kind of like the guinea pigs of everything. And it was, you know, we had people getting arrested and assaulted by police officers, and they were all white. So I wouldn't totally agree with what he said, no.
All right, so let's give the audience a little bit of background. Who are you, Kory Watkins?
I'm just a guy, just a regular kind of guy down here in Texas. I'm kind of worried about what's, you know, the government intruding on our rights from all different kinds of angles. And I took, you know, I took an act in the open carry movement. I thought it was much needed here in Texas because we're so far behind on gun rights. I mean, we're very far behind, and so I thought that was something that was, you know, needed here in Texas, and it kind of took off real big, and I kind of got involved a little heavy, and it's you know, I've learned a lot from it, and also been doing some cop watches, and I'm a father of two. I'm a super activist. Anytime that I have some free time, I'm just trying to think of what I can do to go at the beast. You know, if there's cops to be filmed, or if there's some signs to be waved, or if we can try to talk some people out of paying their red light tickets, whatever we can do to, you know, jam the system, I'm all for it.
Very cool. And I see, did I catch a glimpse of what appears to be a cop block hoodie?
Yeah, I have, I'm cop block all the way.
Oh my God. I have a similar hoodie, and I don't know, I just like those. So you do some cop blocking, you post to your Facebook page and YouTube regularly. By the way, what is your YouTube channel?
It's Kory Watkins. That's all it is. You know, I was never really a social media person, but then I understood how I could get out and network to people and reach other people who are like-minded, so I got real active with social media.
So are you from Texas?
I am. I'm born and raised here, right in this DFW area. I've lived here pretty much all my life, but 1 year when I was out in Florida.
Cool. And so what's the relationship with Texas and open carry, the idea that a person can strap a firearm to his hip or around his shoulder and walk around?
Well, we are one of 5 states where you cannot just strap on like your Glock 19 or your 1911, your modern-day handgun. You can't do that, and we want to do that. We're so far behind. We've been having to tote these rifles around. You know, like an AK-47, I can walk around with that, but I can't walk around with my pistol. And so we're trying to educate Texans, because in my lifetime and you know, like my father's parents and my parents' lifetime, they've never seen open carry here in Texas. It's not been seen, so when everybody sees it, they're kind of like, what the hell's going on? But people in Arizona are like, hey, what are you guys doing? We already have open carry. We've had it forever, you know. And so it's kind of a different look. We want to be like the majority of the states, that you can open carry without a license, without being harassed by police officers. I think shall not be infringed was pretty clear, and we've gotten so far from that, so we're just trying to get back to that.
I have a lot of empathy for you and your situation, because right now I'm in the middle of a lawsuit involving the Keene Police, where I live, because I was denied my application for a concealed carry license. So while open carry is legal here in New Hampshire, and I don't need to ask the government's permission to strap a firearm to my hip and walk around, unfortunately, if I want to put a jacket on when it's cold, I do have to ask permission, and that just doesn't seem right to me. So I was denied. I'm bringing that to court and still waiting on a response from the judge on that. But I have a lot of empathy for you. But to you, I might say, well, why don't you just go to another state? Why don't you vote with your feet, Corey? Why not go to Arizona?
Well, I thought about coming up to New Hampshire and being part of the Free State Project, but it's very cold up there, and I'm a Texas boy, so the heat, But, my family lives here. I was born and raised here. I have made a lot of connections here the past, I guess, 4 or 5 years through the Ron Paul campaign and all that stuff, and I just figured, why not stay here and try to work it out with my fellow Texans and try to change the hearts and the minds of people. And we've proven that we could do it. I've seen people come total 180 on the whole topic of open carry, and it's just a matter of educating and doing it persistently, because people have short memories, and the television is telling them one thing, and we're trying to tell them another.
So it is working.
I would say so, definitely, yes.
Okay, cool. Well, you called into Cop Block Radio once upon a time after we were reporting on a story about, I don't know what to call it. It's a conversation that you were having with a police officer in a parking lot. You had also been arrested that night, and you could shed a little bit of light on that for me. Can you help my memory? What was that all about, and is that still ongoing?
Well, I did get arrested for filming. I was standing about 50 or 60 feet away from a police stop, and I was on a sidewalk, and I was trying to go down the sidewalk to get a little bit better of an angle. And unfortunately, an officer told me to go the other way, and I complied. But at the same time, another police car came in the way. So it was a tricky situation, and I ended up getting arrested for it. But it's still kind of ongoing, and I haven't been to court for it, so I can't really say too much about it.
Yeah.
Police they seemed kind of cool after that whole ordeal went down. It's calmed down very much in Arlington. The police officer who arrested me has even tried to talk to me a couple times, but I don't know. I would rather him, if we're going to be cool, go on the stand and tell them that I'm not innocent.
Yeah, I agree. It's cool to have that personal relationship with police that develops once you do cop blocking on a regular basis. I'd love to ask you more about that, your relationship with the local police, as well as ask you, what are your plans for D.C.? More coming up.
All right.
Since time began, tyrants have taken aim at personal liberties. Now there's a movie that aims back.
The government has no more right to tell us what to put in our bodies than they have to take our guns or tell us what books we can read.
Amen. So we have a 4-minute break. I'm going to get some more water. How you doing?
I'm good. I got some juice right next to me, and I'm feeling good.
All right, cool. I'll put the ads back on, and we'll be back in 3.5 minutes.
All right, brother.
Drug war is nothing but a farce.
The Second Amendment says you got to keep you and your gat intact.
Guns and Weed, The Road to Freedom. A film by Michael W. Dean and Nima Badavi.
DVD available now at gunsandweed.com or on Amazon. That's gunsandweed.com. Makes the perfect gift. Remember, that's gunsandweed.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com. The Shire Free Church offers a sanctuary to those seeking an escape from state churches.
The Shire Free Church is an interfaith, diverse group of people that may not share identical theological beliefs. As a member in or minister of the Shire Free Church, you are a sovereign individual and may be the faith of your choice.
We don't claim to have all of the answers.
We are open to all peaceful people.
We want to learn from each other.
What unifies the Shire Free Church and its diverse members is peace,
love, and liberty. There are many paths to God, one for every individual.
The Shire Free Church does not define a specific path beyond those parameters that must be your foundation.
Peace as your way,
love as your guide,
and liberty as your light.
Learn more at church.shiresociety.com.
That's church.shiresociety.com.
Instead of just listening, you can also watch. See the Liberty Radio Network's Keene, New Hampshire-based live shows via our studio cam at cam.lrn.fm. Plus, you'll still be able to listen to the Liberty Radio Network via the cam feed in high quality 24/7, even when there's no live show being produced in our Keene studio. But wait, there's more. Our chat room is built into the cam page so you can interact with other listeners online. Listen, watch, and chat, all free at cam.lrn.fm. That's cam.lrn.fm.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people.
We got one more minute. So, did you say that you're a dad?
I am. I have a 7-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter.
Oh, congrats. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. The one was just standing next to me, like right out of the distance. I know she probably wants to be on. I'll probably put him in the picture here later.
Ah, that's cool. Their kids are welcome.
I love kids.
Yeah. What did Jesus say about children?
Not sure. Pretty sure he said a lot of good things.
Let me see. Yeah, because I mean, sometimes people try and not have their kids come on to like a live program, but I'm like, no, don't like tell your kids to go away. I mean, that feels kind of cruel. So I just want to be clear. I do not mind if children come and want to be a part of the show or interrupt or anything. It's totally cool.
Good deal.
All right, here we go.
With the Liberty Radio Network on the air in your area. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how. Broadcast.lrn.fm.
Hey, welcome back. This is Peace News, and we're talking with Kory Watkins of Open Carry, Tarrant County. That's a place in Texas. And you can watch his videos on YouTube. I found them to be very entertaining. And he's had a recent arrest with an Arlington police officer for video recording. He's wearing a copblock.org hoodie as he joins us live. So, Kory, thanks so much for being with us. And I want to get right back into it. You were saying that you have sort of a personal relationship with the police that's developed because of your cop blocking. Can you tell me more?
Yeah, I have. I've definitely, some of the officers may not really agree with some of the things that we do and with the cop watch aspect, but you can definitely tell that we've gained their respect as far as knowing our rights and helping out in the community. When we go out on cop watches, we don't just film the police. If somebody needs to change their tire, or if they need a jump with their car, or we found people stuck in the ditch and we've pushed them out. We do all kinds of things. One time we found somebody hallucinating on drugs who was in the middle of the street on the median, and we ended up getting their car out of the road and getting them off to safety. And we're there helping for the community so that we get respect for that as well. And I've talked with many officers, off the camera, who respect what we do and see us as equals. And we've even had officers come up to us and be like, "Hey, where were you guys last call? We could have used you," and stuff like that. So that's kind of cool. I mean, it's good when they can see us as equals and just be people, and that they understand that we're not out there to be hateful or anything like that. We're just documenting and minding our own business.
Yeah, I agree. It's so great. Here in Keene, cop blocking has been happening since long before I moved, and the police are so used to it. They wave and smile, and they see the cop blockers as no threat. In fact, I think they have internalized that the cop blockers keep them as safe as they keep their victims. Oftentimes they'll ask we, the activists, for some of our footage, to help them out in the conviction of actual crimes, real crimes, crimes involving victims. And anyway, I think it's great to have a personal relationship with these people who would be enemies, but really we're more like frenemies. We can at least be friendly in our disagreement with one another. And so, hey, speaking of disagreements. I want to get into the reason I caught attention from you this week because I saw this story at rawstory.com titled Texas Open Carry Leader Uses Facebook for Armed Takeover of Washington. And it's got this picture of you squinting into the sun here, smiling in what may be the hat you're wearing currently. It's a handsome hat. And you're clean-shaven, you know. And then here it says, on Saturday, the president of a Texas Open Carry group called for like-minded followers to join him in marching on Washington to, quote, arrest the bankers, crooked politicians, and restore liberty here in our country at gunpoint. So, is that accurate?
I would watch what you read from Raw Story, really. You know, I had posted something on my Facebook, and I asked a question. I didn't say, hey, you know, everybody put on their, you know, gun and meet me down at, you know, First and Avenue and let's, you know, take people out at gunpoint. I had asked a simple question.
Right, and you did, and let's put that on screen for the viewers at home. I'll read it aloud for the audio-only audience. The post on Facebook says, have you ever thought we might just need to organize a very large group of our own people, like 200 from each state, so we can march armed to D.C., take over the city, arrest the bankers, crooked politicians, and restore liberty here in our country? I'm not scared. I mean, really. Voting and waiting is not working. And Raw Story didn't show that you got, at least at the time when I took a screenshot of it, 11 shares, I think the day of your posting, lots of likes, lots of conversation that started. They didn't share that part of it, but tell me about what sort of feedback that you got from that post.
Well, I got a bunch of random different messages. Of course, some liberals who hate me for the whole gun thing. They always chime in on a gun subject when they can, and I got like 30 friend requests that day. And I usually ask people, hey, you know, do we know each other, or why are you friending me? You know, because I kind of want to know if they're like a troll or if they're in my community, you know, or something like that. And a bunch of people were like, I read an article about how you want to march to D.C., I'm with you, you know, and people were like jumping on it. I was like, hey, I never said anything about, you know, hey, let's march to D.C. It's just a question, I guess, you know, I mean, hey, if they want to write about that, we'll give them something to talk about, I guess, you know, but I got a lot of good feedback, and of course the people who want to talk smack will talk smack.
So it was strictly hypothetical. It was a pondering aloud and sort of just asking your Facebook audience, you know, what do you think about this idea? It wasn't a suggestion or a call to arms, as Raw Story put it. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's definitely fair to say. And a lot of people brought up that whole Adam Kokesh thing when he tried to do something, I guess, similar to that. And I really didn't follow that too much when he was trying to put that march on D.C. or whatever. But, you know, I guess that would be way different. He actually set up the event, planned it, was telling people to do it. And me, I just asked a simple question about what people would think about that, you know.
Yeah, it does seem different. Now, about those Facebook friend requests, I would be a little concerned if I were you, Corey, because I've heard that there are FBI and CIA agents out there whose job it is to scour the internet, use social media, and look for people who are calling for violence and friending them and then maybe suggesting some things to them. Are you concerned that maybe these new friends that you've made are agents?
Derek, I know they're already watching me, and if they are already watching me, that is for sure. And I don't mind that. My Facebook stuff is public, and I do that on purpose. Whether somebody wants to talk down on me and publicly bash me, I'm okay with that. Let them do that. I have very thick skin. I'm not an insecure person. And I understand that people like to assume and think for other people a lot, but you know, it is what it is, and I can only worry about me.
I want to ask you about the following quote, and you may recognize it from a piece of history. It goes, oh, shoot. And then, of course, I lose the quote as soon as we come to it. Maybe you even remember it. It's the "Give me liberty or give me death" quote. And I want to know, shoot. All right, well, whatever. I lost that, so we'll come to that in just a second. I've got that quote maybe for the final segment. But to those who say that holding a gun or just the mere presence of a gun at a political event is suggestive of a violent takeover of government, can you clear up any misconceptions people might have about your intentions for such a thing?
Well, I think people are very misunderstanding and uneducated on what the purpose of a gun is there for. You know, it's a defense weapon. It's to keep you safe from enemies, you know, foreign, domestic, somebody that, you know, is right there to commit a crime. The gun is your safekeeper. And when we're going to political meetings or if we're cop watching and stuff like that, I don't understand why people would have a problem with us taking our defense tools and our defense weapons to these types of places. I mean, it's, you know, I just don't understand when is it not okay to, you know, open carry.
Awesome way to end that segment. So I love ending on a question because it leaves the audience thinking, yeah, when is it not okay to open carry? And then they'll think about that until we come back.
All right, good deal.
And I do have that quote. I had the wrong quote up. That's why I was confused. I was like, I'm not seeing it. But it was not the "Give me liberty or give me death" quote. It's slightly different. And it was by not Patrick Henry, but Sam Adams, who said, you know, we seek neither your counsel nor your arms.
Okay, I haven't really heard too much about that one.
And I have a Sam Adams here with me, so I was thinking about it.
Very nice.
Yeah, here it is. I'll read it to you so you know what's coming up, but I want to read it again once we're on air.
Okay.
Which, by the way, this is like on air. It's going to be on the YouTube version, but the bigger audience is on the LRN Liberty Radio Network, so it's audio only for most people.
Gotcha.
So let's see. Yeah. He says, "If ye love wealth better than liberty, the tranquility of servitude better than the animating contest of freedom, go home from us in peace. We ask not your counsel or arms. Crouch down and lick the hands which feed you. May your chains set upon you lightly, and may posterity forget that ye were our countrymen."
That's pretty wild.
Isn't that awesome? I think that's pretty great. I mean, it's not like perfect or anything, not what I would say, but I think it's pretty badass for a quote that's like over 200 years old.
Those guys are pretty smart down there.
Yeah, and I like that it's in like almost modern English. He says "ye," but a lot of the things back then that they wrote, I couldn't really decipher or understand. Huh? Yeah. We got a question from the chat too coming up. How will this law affect hippie liberal douchebags in Austin? Someone else says, hopefully they go away. Maybe. I don't know. Keep Austin weird.
I was about to say the same thing.
I like the Austin Bitcoin conference had shirts that said "Keep Bitcoin Weird."
That's cool.
Yeah. Do you use Bitcoin?
No, I don't. I need to start using something though to just find a way to fight back at the system coming from that angle.
Yeah, totally, man.
I got a little silver and a little gold, but that's it.
Yeah, silver and gold. That's a good way to beat him. Beat him, you know who I mean. The man. This one's for Sam Adams.
Cheers.
For liberty. You've got a lot of liberty gear behind you. What's
Yeah. Got some Ron Paul. I got this liberty campaigning. This woman just got elected to the Senate. She was a very like-minded person, very liberty-friendly. Got a Rolling Stone magazine that I was on the cover of.
What?
Yeah.
No way. Cool, man. Tell me about. Can you tell me about?
They talk about how the wingnuts took over Texas, and then if you open it up, there's like a whole cover shot of me and Ted Cruz in there with a gun.
Boom! You're on a spread. Did you ever think you'd be on a centerfold spread?
Yeah, it was badass.
Wow. All right, we're coming back.
BibleSpeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
You can connect with the Liberty Radio Network via our Facebook page at facebook.lrn.fm. That's facebook.lrn.fm.
If ye love wealth better than liberty, the tranquility of servitude better than the animating contest of freedom, go home from us in peace. We ask not your counsels or arms. Crouch down and lick the hands which feed you. May your chains set lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that ye were our countrymen. I raise my glass to Samuel Adams, who spoke those words over 200 years ago. Kory, what do you think about that quote?
That was one smart dude. That's all I have to say, and I stand with him. I wish I had some kind of teleporter. I'd go back in that day and just pick those guys' brains and learn more from them. Very interesting.
One of the things that I learned from the founding fathers, I'm going to use air quotes when I say that, is that violent revolution, much like in France and everywhere else it was tried, just didn't work. I mean, they produced a piece of paper, the Constitution, which in theory would strictly limit the government to only certain powers. And yet, we find ourselves living in an Anglo-American empire that's grown larger than any empire in the history of humanity. What's the deal, man?
Apathy, confusion, media, money, power. It's all twisted, man. It's crazy. Who knows? I think it was a lot more freer before we got here, when people were doing their own things.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Some people make the argument that where the country went wrong was in, I guess, 1776, was with basically trying. I guess not in 1776, but when they finally started to form a new government, and they were like, all right, we're going to be independent, but then they were like, now we got a new set of rulers over us. Because Lysander Spooner wrote in the 1800s, quote, "But whether the Constitution really be one thing or another, this much is certain, that it has either authorized such a government as we have had, or it has been powerless to prevent it. In either case, it is unfit to exist." That comes from his book, No Treason, the Constitution of No Authority, which argues basically that, you never signed the Constitution, I never signed it, and we can't be held liable or accountable for contracts that we never signed. What do you think about that?
I agree. I call myself a strict constitutionalist, but sometimes I reach even farther than that, beyond the Constitution. What does liberty and freedom really mean? A lot of people think, standing up and singing the Star Spangled Banner and going to like a baseball game is what America's about, and it's, the land of the free somehow. And I think a lot of people are confused, and I would say that if we could get back to what the Constitution, had in mind, that would be great. But if it was up to me, I would say, why not just have full individual responsibility of yourself, and that's it.
Boy, I agree with that. Secession down to the individual level. Would you support that?
I would. I think that's real liberty and freedom. I think people, in communities would help each other out better, and we wouldn't need somebody telling us, you know, hey, we're going to have this road here, or, you know, stuff like that. It's just, government's way too big.
And one of the things I like about peace activism and liberty activism in general is that it can show these things for examples in real life. Like you talk about how you're able to help people on the side of the road, or how you're able to hold the police accountable and protect their victims by shooting video. I mean, by living what you preach, I think that really spreads the message better than any words. Would you agree?
I agree. You know, you can talk it all you want and educate people, but leading by example and actually doing it and walking the walk, it shows a lot. People, you know, that moves people. People want to get to know who you are. People want to get involved in your movement and learn from you. It's interesting how people learn. You know, they've only learned what they've been shown and what they know. And if you show them something else and you put words in their ears that they've never heard, you know, it could bring new ideas and they can learn.
A couple questions from the chat room at PeaceNewsNow.com/live. One chatter asks, please ask Corey when his Liberty and Freedom show is coming back.
My son has been on me with that, and we need to bring that back. That was doing real well, and a couple things come up with the arrest and then a couple other things. It's just been crazy lately, and I haven't been back to it. You know, I got hit by a drunk driver about 3 weeks ago, and it's just been crazy since then. So, but that is coming back. We need to bring that back. I do apologize. My son is on to me about that.
Terrific. And another question from the chat room. How will this law, presumably the open carry law in Texas, affect hippie liberal douchebags in Austin?
It won't affect them that much that it already has, because we've been down into Austin and open carried a bunch. People come out there and spoke out against us. We've even had some chicks come out there topless and protest us, because I guess that you can do that in public here in Texas. It's okay to walk around topless if you're a woman. Equal rights kind of thing. But you know, I'm not really too worried about what other people think or feel. You know, just smile and wave, and I support their rights, or you know, and their thought process of whatever they want to. You know, if they want to talk about it, I'm willing to talk about it too.
So we've talked a little bit about what freedom means to us, and about achieving freedom in our minds and in our real lives. Although personally, while I feel like I really get the ideas of freedom, I struggle to live them in my life. There are so many obstacles to really being truly free. Do you feel free?
No, I am a slave for sure. I know that.
Why do you say that?
Well, you know, it's just if I wanted to go fishing, I have to ask permission. I have to pay a tax, or I'm going to get kidnapped and thrown in a cage. I have to ask permission to drive on roads that I've paid for, in a car that I've paid for. If I don't, I'll get arrested and I'll get thrown in a cage. If I don't have 2 of these stickers on my car, insurance inspection, that I have to, you know, it's just I have to ask for permission for so much, and I have to pay government so much money just to do things, and it's insane. So I mean, if that's not slavery, you're lost. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you mentioned the Free State Project in our first segment together, and for those who aren't familiar, the FSP is an agreement among 20,000 participants to move to New Hampshire for liberty in our lifetime, and they are 80% of the way to achieving their goal. So, are you attracted to move to New Hampshire?
You know, I would be attracted to move to New Hampshire, and I'm signed up on the Free State Project list thing already.
Oh, wow, you are a participant.
I am a participant, so to say, and I actually looked into moving there. I've scoped out some things. I actually was a follower of yours probably about 1.5 years ago. Some of your videos inspired me to do some of the things that I do now, so I was very big on coming to New Hampshire there for a while, but like I said, something just kept me here in Texas, and has so far.
I'm so touched. Thank you for sharing. I say so because one of the listeners in the chat room says, please beg Kory to move to New Hampshire because Texas ain't getting freer.
No, we ain't. We're just now introducing a bill to where you can't arrest somebody for having 1 ounce or less. I mean, they're still arresting us for smoking joints down here. It's insane.
You know, they're still doing that in New Hampshire, too. It's really embarrassing to live in a state that calls itself the live free or die state, and yet it's surrounded by more liberal states, you think is authoritarian big government, but they allow cannabis. They don't have any problems with medical or recreational use, most of the states surrounding us. So it's really embarrassing to be a part of a state like that.
Do you feel more freer since that you've gotten there? Do you think things are moving in the right direction?
Yeah, I do, but it's not because of the laws or the legislature. It's because of the people and the community. It's because I know that if I am in trouble, I can use the different activist tools that exist already that have been built here to call out for help, and that's already been effective. Like when I was pulled over, I'm able to use a service called Porcupine 411 and blast out a message to any activist on the email list that, hey, I've been pulled over, this is what's happening, and it goes out live, which is really cool. I've never seen that anywhere else. There's also a Keen 411 text-based system where you can text out to other activists. We also use two-way communications via radios. So, yeah, I'm freer, but it's not because of the state. it's because of the people. So, hey, Kory, I want to thank you for joining us on Peace News tonight. Really terrific to speak with you, and I wish you a lot of luck and success in achieving freedom in your life.
Hey, keep in touch with me, brother. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you. Peace.
Peace out, brother.
Freedom Fiends.
Cheers. That was awesome. I really appreciate your time. Thank you, Kory.
Not a problem. Anytime, man. Like I said, really keep in touch.
All right, terrific.
I make it for.
And thank you to those of you who watched that interview. We will be coming up with more content in the second hour. I've got a couple of news stories to report to you. And if you're enjoying this program, I invite you to reward me with some Bitcoin. Here, you can do that up on the screen. We've got a QR code where you can just scan it with your phone with a Bitcoin wallet, beep, and then send, I recommend 50 cents a podcast. So it's not that much, and with Bitcoin, there's like little to no fee for sending any amount of money. So those micropayments really go a long way. Thanks.
Listen on LRN.FM Monday through Friday, midnight to 2 a.m. U.S. Central Time, and weekends, noon to 2 p.m. U.S. Central Time.
Imagine someone in your community getting in their car, turning on the radio, and hearing the Liberty Radio Network. You can make that vision a reality with your own micro radio station. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how you can put our programs on the air in your area. You can have LRN.FM running around the clock, and you can even add in your own local shows. Building a radio station is simple, but programming isn't. That's where LRN.FM comes in. Learn more at broadcast.lrn.fm. That's broadcast.lrn.fm.
This Your Family Today tip is brought to you by Ovaltine. Give your kids the nutrition they need to be their best. Visit us at ovaltineusa.com. Telling your child about healthy food choices is important, but showing her what to eat goes a lot further. Have her help create the grocery list, then bring her to the store with you. Picking out healthy foods together helps kids get in the habit of thinking about what they're eating every day. For more tips like these, visit us at parenthood.com/yourfamilytoday.
More Peace News Now is coming up next, live after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network, LRN.FM.
This is the Liberty Beat, your daily source for Liberty news and activist updates. Online at thelibertybeat.com. I'm Brian Hagan with your Liberty Beat for Tuesday, December 16th, 2014. Gold is trading around $1,199. Silver around $16.23. And Bitcoin is trading around $342.68. Today's Bitcoin price brought to you by ExpressCoin, the fastest and most reliable way to buy Bitcoin. Buy Bitcoin today at expresscoin.com. The Liberty Beat is sponsored by eFoods Direct Storable Foods. With a menu of food that's so good, so easy to make, you'll find yourself eating it every day, even though it has a shelf life of up to 25 years. Visit efoodsdirect.com/LibertyBeat or call 800-620-5520 and mention Liberty Beat. to get a 10% off listener discount. In the news, jailed whistleblower Chelsea Manning has been tortured. That's the claim made by Welsh relatives of the former United States Army soldier sentenced to 35 years behind bars for providing leak seeker cables to WikiLeaks. According to Wales Online, Manning's mother and aunt claim that Manning was subjected to being stripped naked and kept in solitary confinement. Some of these same techniques outlined in the recently released report regarding CIA torture. The relative spoke as the demand grows for an inquiry into what British authorities knew regarding the CIA's interrogation used against so-called enemy combatants. On Monday, Texas State Representative Joe Moody introduced a bill that would reduce the penalties for those found in possession of small amounts of cannabis. Texans found with up to an ounce would receive a civil fine of $100. Heather Fazio is the Texas political director for the Marijuana Policy Project, which supports the bill introduced by the El Paso Democrat.
The bill is designed to reduce penalties associated with marijuana possession of under 1 ounce. It means no jail time, no criminal record, and no arrest for those with 1 ounce or less of marijuana in Texas. A big change that will hopefully reduce the collateral created by the war on drugs.
The proposed legislation has also received the support of the ACLU of Texas and Republicans against marijuana prohibition. Today's broadcast of the Liberty Beat is made possible by Central Texas Gunworks, your online source for firearms, firearm accessories, and ammunition. They take major credit cards and now accept Bitcoin. Visit them online at shop.centraltexasgunworks.com. Support for Liberty Beat also comes from Marjorie Wildcraft's Grow Your Own Groceries, homegrown food on every table. That's growyourowngroceries.org. This is the Liberty Beat for Tuesday, December 16th, 2014. Check out the website at thelibertybeat.com. The Electronic Frontier Foundation has condemned the Intelligence Authorization Act of 2015 for supporting the status quo and massive loopholes that will allow the egregious retention and sharing of innocent users' communication. The U.S. House of Representatives passed the measure last week. The EFF says the bill does not go far enough to curtail spying. The Supreme Court of Canada has ruled that police can search cell phones of suspects without a warrant. The court found that law enforcement officials can go through cell phones if the search relates to the arrest and the police keep detailed notes. The decision was split 4-3, with the dissenting judges arguing that cell phones and personal devices need to be protected. Lawyers with Sony Pictures Entertainment are demanding that news organizations stop publishing details of leaked company files obtained by hackers. Attorney David Boyce says Sony's stolen information should be returned or destroyed immediately. Boyce said that Sony does not consent to possession, review, copying, dissemination, publication, uploading, downloading, or making any use of the stolen information. The leaked info includes financial records, employment files, code names for actors, and gossip between Hollywood executives about President Obama and celebrities. The Liberty Beat is made possible through the support of Midas Resources Incorporated, helping clients convert their paper 401ks and IRAs to solid gold and silver. Get their 10 Reasons book free by calling 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237. Want to reach tens of thousands of like-minded listeners every day with your messenger product? Well, the Liberty Beat is looking for sponsors for their daily news service. Support this grassroots media project while expanding your reach to a targeted market. To find out more, visit libertybeat.com/advertise. This is the Liberty Beat for Tuesday, December 16th, 2014. I'm Brian Hagan reporting, reminding you to spread liberty with a smile.
When 16-year-old Jeffrey Patterson died in a car accident in February, he didn't just leave behind grieving friends and family, he also left a significant web presence. In a tribute to their son, Jeff's parents have continued to update their son's blogs and social media sites, including a blog called Shitbirds Everywhere.
Well, Jeff used his blog to make fun of stupid shitbirds. And now that we're doing this, it's like part of him is still alive.
Yeah, and then when I post a picture of some shitbird who has a stupid ankle tattoo or wears some retarded hat, I feel like somewhere he's smiling.
He hated retarded hats so much.
Whenever we get a comment calling Jeff a dumb fag for making fun of a handicapped person on a rascal scooter, well, it's like he's still here. Jeff would have gotten such a kick out of that fat shit bird. He really would have.
This is the Onion News Network.
Welcome back, friends and lovers. Well, a police union demands that a Browns player apologize for wearing a Tamir Rice and John Crawford Justice shirt. Plus, coming up, Pirate Bay shutdown had virtually no effect on digital piracy, and why Ross Ulbrecht won't hear who his witnesses are against him. All that and more coming up on Peace News. Plus, your calls. You can take control by dialing 443-424-8347 or Skype Peace News Now. You can also join us in the chat room at PeaceNewsNow.com/live, where things are pretty active. I'm signed in there. And so let's turn to this story about the Ohio Police Union, because the Ohio Police Union has such a flawless record. Apparently, a police union in Ohio, according to Raw Story, is criticizing a football player, Andrew Hawkins, for wearing a shirt protesting the fatal police shooting in November of a 12-year-old black boy who was carrying a pellet gun. Hawkins, a wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns, wore a T-shirt during a pre-game warm-up that read, "Justice for Tamir Rice and John Crawford," referring to the 12-year-old Rice and 22-year-old man, both shot in separate incidents while carrying pellet guns by Ohio police. In wearing the shirt, Hawkins became the latest of numerous sports stars to wear shirts referencing the killing of unarmed black men by police in U.S. cities, sparked by grand jury decisions not to prosecute officers involved in the deaths of Michael Brown in Missouri and Eric Garner in New York. Hawkins wore the shirt before the Browns game against the Cincinnati Bengals in Cleveland 2 days after Rice's death at the hands of Cleveland police was ruled a homicide. Cleveland Police Patrolmen's Association President Jeff Fulmer said that the shirt was disrespectful and called Hawkins pathetic. He's an athlete, someone who's with no facts of the case whatsoever. He's disrespecting the police on a job that we had to do and make a split-second decision. Fulmer, the Cleveland Police Patrolmen's Association president, also demanded an apology from the Browns. The team has not yet responded. Last week, a wave of basketball and football stars donned "I Can't Breathe" shirts, one of the rallying cries of demonstrators against U.S. policing tactics in black communities. Players for the St. Louis Rams football team also angered local police when they made hand gestures referencing the "Hands Up, Don't Shoot" slogan connected with protests against police shooting of 18-year-old Brown, an unarmed black teen in the St. Louis suburb of Ferguson, whose death drew international attention and sparked months of sometimes violent protests. But I bring you this story this evening because wearing a T-shirt at a pre-game warm-up is an entirely peaceful act of resistance. There's no violence here in wearing a shirt. A police union demanding an apology for wearing a T-shirt is completely out of line. The people are demanding an apology from the police for shooting a man who was a threat to no one, leaving behind a wife and 2 kids. But wearing a T-shirt, that causes no victims. It may hurt the feelings of those police who went a little trigger happy and ended up killing an innocent man, but speaking truth to power is always going to make someone a little unhappy. Let's turn next to a story about the Pirate Bay, which was shut down, if you may remember, about a week ago. It was deep sixth this week in its home port of Stockholm, Sweden, after cops raided a data center hosting the world's most famous piracy organization, but its absence appears to have hardly put a dent in global piracy activity over the last 4 days. On Monday, December 8th, a total of 101.5 million internet addresses worldwide were engaged in torrent downloads of relevant titles tracked by anti-piracy firm Excipio, including movies, TV shows, music, video games, software, and other digital media. On December 9th, Swedish law enforcement authorities, acting on a complaint from an anti-piracy group based in the country, descended on a web hosting facility used by Pirate Bay and confiscated, or in other words, stole its servers and other equipment. The result? The total number of IP addresses engaged in peer-to-peer downloads of content tracked by Excipio dropped slightly from 99 million on December 9th to 95 million and 95.6 million the following 2 days, before bouncing back to 100.2 million on Friday, December 12th. That's roughly in line with the daily average of 99.9 million since November 1st, according to Excipio. So essentially, there was no net change in piracy traffic online, as tracked by anti-piracy firm Excipio. They would know. They might even be the ones who complained. But there was no result in the feds cracking down on the Pirate Bay website. So while the Pirate Bay had attracted millions of users, pirates are still pillaging Hollywood content using any one of dozens of other websites or services. For the 6 days ended December 11th, the top 5 pirated moves were 20th Century Fox's The Maze Runner, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, Lucy, Fury, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. On the TV front, pirates swarmed over The Walking Dead, The Flash, Arrow, Sons of Anarchy, Homeland, and The Big Bang Theory. The Pirate Bay, founded in Sweden in 2003, has been the target of multiple lawsuits, criminal prosecutions, and police raids over the years. Since the Swedish-hosted site of the Pirate Bay was unplugged from its website with the domain suffix .se, other sites have claimed to have picked up, but some are fake, and others placeholders that do not replicate the original piracy haven. In a blog this week by one of the piracy organization's founders, Peter Sund, who goes by the online pseudonym Brokep, wrote that the Pirate Bay had, quote, no soul left, and that he didn't care if the site had been shut down. Quote, it feels good that it might have closed down forever. Just a real shame the way it did that. And yeah, that is a real shame, because even though the Pirate Bay had no net change, no effect in when it was shut down, no effect on users torrenting, you know, there are still people behind these websites, and I feel for them. A lot of the Pirate Bay founders are in prison or facing charges and going to prison, and they, of course, have created no victims. They've only brought wonderful entertainment and content to millions of people, and really untold numbers of people, because who knows how long these websites will exist and continue to serve the masses. Next, we turn to a story of Ross Ulbrecht, who is coming up with a trial in New York City coming soon. But the Silk Road judge says, I won't reveal witnesses because Ulbrecht could have them killed. This story from Andy Greenberg at Wired.com. That coming up, plus your calls on Peace News, and Oklahoma's Satanic statue is coming along nicely. How's that for peaceful resistance? And a woman jailed for saying F the police A court ruled that a dad can get his 4-year-old son circumcised, and the underwear bomber works for the CIA.
Are you a political activist who does things that the government might not like? Then this free ebook may save your life. Rats is your guide to protecting yourself against snitches, informers, informants, agents provocateur, narcs, finks, and similar vermin. Rats was written by OG libertarian Claire Wolfe. Rats is a short book, easy to read, and available free in many formats. Download Rats free at rats-nosnitch.com. That's rats-nosnitch.com.
Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So, the American Empire. The Empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. The 3 most important things you can do for LRN.FM are: 1. Let your friends know you're listening to LRN.FM on your social networking profile. 2. Buy the things you buy online through shop.lrn.fm. 3. Give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm. It's my firm belief that the AMP program is the best use of your charitable dollar among liberty-oriented groups. Support all your favorite organizations, but make sure you give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm.
If you want to move to the free state and you're looking for some real estate, well, I know a guy who's really great. It's the realtor Mark Warden. Do you want a home with 20 acres, a lakeside cabin? Any takers for renters, buyers, and sellers too? Mark Warden is the guy for you. PorcupineRealEstate.com.
If you can't listen to the Liberty Radio Network's internet streams, free satellite channel, or radio affiliates, no worries. You can listen to LRN.FM from any phone, anywhere. Add this number to your phone, 213-493-0309. It's a long-distance call, so make sure you're familiar with your phone's calling plan. The Liberty Radio Network listen lines are locked into our stream 24 hours a day. Call 213-493-0309. That's 213-493-0309.
Attention! Have you been in a serious automobile accident? Then you need to call our attorneys now. We specialize in helping our clients get compensated for major auto injuries. If you've been in any type of car or motorcycle accident and you've been seriously injured, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation. Our attorneys have recovered millions and millions of dollars for injured clients. There are no out-of-pocket costs to you ever. We only receive a fee when we win your case 24/7. If you've been in an accident and been seriously injured, make this free call to our attorneys now. Call the Personal Injury Center at 800-648-9173. 800-648-9173. 800-648-9173. That's 800-648-9173. This ad is paid for by participating member law firms. We are not an attorney referral service. Representation may not be.
While our satellite channel is free to listen to, it's not free for us. You can help us cover our satellite costs with the chip-in on the right side of the page at lrn.fm.
Welcome back, world. Still to come. Oklahoma's Satanic statue is coming along nicely. Plus, a court rules that a dad can get his 4-year-old son circumcised. His mom wants the Supreme Court to intervene. Plus, the underwear bomber was working for the CIA? Color me surprised. And an undercover cop pulls a gun on peaceful protesters and journalists. Those stories and more to come. But first we turn to Wired.com, where Andy Greenberg writes about the Silk Road judge who will not allow Ross Ulbrecht to know who the witnesses are against him. Definitely an unusual case. Well, when alleged Silk Road mastermind Ross Ulbrecht's trial begins in less than a month, he'll face charges of narcotics conspiracy, money laundering, and computer fraud. Not murder. But the specter of violence is creeping into Ulbrecht's trial nonetheless. The prosecution and judge in his case have now refused to let him know which witnesses will be testifying against him, for fear that he might orchestrate their killing from his jail cell. In response to a request from prosecutors, New York District Court Judge Catherine Forrest has allowed prosecutors to keep a list of their witnesses in Ulbrecht's case secret until January 2nd, the Friday just before his trial begins on the following Monday morning. Her ruling followed a request from prosecutors to redact certain names from the full list to reduce the risk of harm and intimidation. They cited the FBI's account that Ulbrecht paid for the murders of 6 people, including at least one employee who he feared would inform on him to law enforcement. In a letter explaining her decision, Forrest wrote that in no position to find that those murder-for-hire allegations are baseless, or that witnesses who are known to be preparing to testify against defendant would not be at risk of some retaliatory act. Ulbrecht's defense attorneys had objected to the prosecution's request to keep the witness list secret, arguing that it would make preparing Ulbrecht's defense far more difficult. They also noted that Ulbrecht has been jailed, quote, without email and has extremely limited access to the outside world. But Forrest wrote in her response that despite his imprisonment, Ulbrecht might nonetheless reach contacts who could threaten witnesses. Quote, while defendant has limited access to the outside world, that has been true of many defendants in many cases who have creatively managed around such limitations, she wrote. Ulbrecht's defense lawyer Joshua Dreidel declined to comment on the judge's decision. The accusations of murder for hire in Ulbrecht's case have become a controversial albatross around the 30-year-old defendant's neck. Despite describing how Ulbrecht allegedly attempted to pay for the murders of 6 people in pretrial documents, prosecutors haven't actually charged Ulbrecht with those murders, nor have they produced any evidence that anyone was actually killed. He has, however, been charged with attempting to pay for the killings of his alleged Silk Road employee Curtis Clark Green in a separate case in Maryland. The hitman to whom he allegedly paid $80,000 was an undercover DEA agent. When Ulbrecht was first arrested in October of last year, prosecutors' claims of his violent acts quickly eroded his popular support among Silk Road's thousands of users and much of the libertarian community. His alleged persona in the Silk Road's community forums, by contrast, had encouraged only victimless crime, like drug use, and advocated a nonviolent, free market philosophy. Ulbrecht's lawyers and family have argued that the alleged killings without formal charges were intended to taint his reputation. One blog post on freeross.org reads, quote, "This is an uncharged crime, which conveniently requires no proof, but goes a long way to prejudice a jury and the public." Basically, the prosecution wants to smear Ross' reputation without having to prove anything. Despite leaving murder for hire out of its charges, the prosecution in the New York case has countered that the murder accusations fall within the broader charge of a narcotics conspiracy. But the defense has repeatedly sought to have discussion of the murder for hire cases precluded from the trial. The mere mention of the murder for hire allegations would improperly introduce the toxic issue of violence and murder, generating irredeemable prejudice to Mr. Ulbrecht. Judge Forrest has yet to rule on that motion. In the meantime, those murder accusations will continue to weigh on Ulbrecht's reputation and keep his defense in the dark. Well, that's kind of sad. I'm deeply disappointed by the actions of this judge, but what should I expect? She's not impartial. She's paid for by the state, the same organization that pays the prosecution. So can it be that the referee between a defendant and a prosecutor, can that defendant get a fair trial and really be heard on the merits of the case? Can justice really be served when the referee for the case receives a paycheck from the exact same organization that the prosecution is receiving a paycheck from? Doesn't that mean that they're working for the same organization? It certainly seems like they are. Evidence is bearing that this judge is already biased against Ross. I just hope he gets justice. Let's turn to a lighter story. A peaceful protest in Oklahoma, of all places. I like this one. As a formerly religious Christian, I like when atheists poke fun at theists. This is one of those stories from Vice.com. The Satanic statue being made for Oklahoma's State House is coming along nicely. And here's a video or photograph for those of you who aren't familiar with what the end product is supposed to look like. This is an artist's rendition, and it features two children, a young girl in a dress and a young boy in formal wear, looking up at a shirtless centaur-looking figure with wings. I assume this is Satan. We'll hear that story. Plus, still to come, a court rules that a dad can get his 4-year-old son circumcised. His mother wants the Supreme Court to intervene. How do you feel about that? Is that wrong? Or does this father own his son and have every right to cut his genitals? What do you think?
Free Press Publications is an independent alternative media and publishing company founded in June 2009 with the mission of ensuring a free press for the freedom movement and is committed to spreading the message of peace, freedom, love, and liberty. FPP also gives new authors an avenue for publishing freedom-oriented material. FPP brings you daily news and commentary on the website, fpp.cc, as well as a daily 5-minute newscast, FPP Radio News, and weekly news, views, and commentary in the FPP Freedom Minute and Peace, Love, Liberty Radio at fppradio.com, and the monthly newspaper, FPP News, at news.fpp.cc. Find FPP online at fpp.cc. That's fpp.cc, as in Creative Commons.
I'm Mark Stevens of the No State Project. And are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're only helping the government. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available right now. Learn it, use it, spread it. So get started with Bitcoin at weusecoins.com. That's weusecoins.com.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of
where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. Find out about giving to our Google AdWords campaign at amp.freetalklive.com. That's amp.freetalklive.com. DVD, books, music, instruments, periodicals, computers, software, electronics, photo, cell phone, office products, home and garden, bed and bath, furniture, kitchen, pet supplies, automotive, hardware, apparel, shoes, jewelry, grocery, healthcare, sports and outdoors, toys, games, used, and more. It's a department store at your fingertips. Shop.lrn.fm. Get all your shopping done, get a great deal, and a portion of your purchase goes to benefit the Liberty Radio Network when you shop at Amazon via shop.lrn.fm.
Are you a helpless moron perplexed by the world? Wish there was a device that enabled you to consult the Onion Book of Known Knowledge anytime, anywhere? Then you need the Book Bjorn, the amazing new wearable invention that makes you and the Onion Book of Known Knowledge inseparable. Never again be stumped by the panoply of bizarre objects filling your field of vision. Never take it off. Never be without it. All this for just 4 easy payments of $39.93. The Book Bjorn. The Book Bjorn. And if you call now, you'll receive the special page-turning wand. Turn pages with the greatest of ease. The special reading light to wrench knowledge from utter darkness. The book umbrella to protect the Onion Book of Known Knowledge's precious pages from the elements. Book Bjorn. This $800 value can be yours today. Send a check or money order to the Book Bjorn, care of the Zwiebel Center for Knowledge Studies, 15 Zwiebel Way, Macau, China. Do not hesitate. Buy now. The Book Bjorn.
Help get LRN.FM into more ears. Visit promote.lrn.fm for a free bumper sticker, flyers, banners, graphics, and more. Promote.lrn.fm.
Coming up, circumcision on a 4-year-old boy? Really? Why's that? Plus, Dick Cheney says torture, not such a big deal, not such a surprise. And Vice.com is reporting on the Satanic statue in Oklahoma's State House. Yeah, 2 weeks ago, John Smith. No, I don't know if this is John Smith. Who wrote this article? I'm looking over at Vice.com, and I'm not really seeing, who's Jonathan Smith. Yeah, okay. So not only did he take the photographs, he also wrote the article. So at Vice.com, John Smith writes, 2 weeks ago, I found myself in the backwoods of rural Florida, standing in front of a bronzed bust of the pagan idol Baphomet. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but a few days later, it would be attached to its 8.5-foot cloven hoof body and put to rest on a throne flanked on either side by a small metallic child. Eventually, its creators hope, it will be whisked away to Oklahoma, where it will be placed next to a 10 Commandments monument on the front lawn of the state capitol. And I really like this because it's a form of peaceful resistance. It's people who are unhappy with the 10 Commandments being put at the state capitol, and they say, hey, if you can put the 10 Commandments there and worship one religion, recognize that, then we should be able to recognize Satanism too. And they're doing it totally peacefully and artistically and hilariously, I might add. Jonathan Smith writes, I had come to this foundry in the middle of the sticks with Lucian Greaves, the spokesperson for the Satanic Temple, the group behind the monument. The last time I saw it was in a small Brooklyn studio in April, when it was still being formed out of clay by Mark Porter, an artist trained in classical sculpture. Now, 7 months later, it's almost finished. And here you can see some pictures of the bronze statue. He's got beautiful metallic wings, some muscular arms here, some cloven hooves and what appears to be some snake-like symbol on his chest. It says, "Before the trip, I had been under the impression that bronze sculptures were created with a giant crane that dipped the work into a whole vat of molten bronze like a piece of bread into a fondue bowl. That's not the case. The work is cut into many pieces, each of which is bronzed separately before being welded back together. When we arrived, different parts of the sculpture lay scattered across the property. The bust sat on a wooden table inside a sort of open-air shed, while the torso rested nearby on a smaller table. The hooves and arms were splayed out on the ground nearby. The following day, Porter, along with 2 other men, would begin the arduous process of welding the disparate pieces together to create a smooth, fluid sculpture that's meant to serve as a testament to the equal representation of all religions under U.S. law." Pretty funny. And while it's not yet finished, the below images should give you an idea of what these guys are working on, just so that you can get the picture. You can learn more from thestoryadvice.com. Of course, this story is best told in pictures, so I encourage you to go there and look at them there. So we've got them for you on video at PeaceNewsNow.com/live. That's also where we'll have the show notes if you want to investigate further. Now we turn to a story of circumcision. And this is one, it's a little strange. Out of West Palm Beach, the Palm Beach County boy celebrated his 4th birthday on October 31st. And 6 days later, a state appeals court cleared the way for his long-delayed circumcision. But the child's foreskin has yet to be surgically removed as his father wishes. The boy's mother insists it's not medically necessary and asked for the unusual case to be heard by the Florida Supreme Court. But her battle may be nearing the end. The 4th District Court of Appeals in West Palm Beach Friday denied that request, meaning the procedure appears to be one step closer to taking place. The army of special interest groups opposed to circumcision has rallied behind the mom with websites and local demonstrations. These so-called intactivists have closely followed the parents' year-long battle over the boy, Chase Ryan Nebus Hieronymus. The most recent federal statistics indicate circumcision is waning in popularity across the country, but a national pediatricians group says the health benefits of the procedure for newborn males are greater than the risks. Jonathan Friedman, head of the organization called Blood-Stained Men, has helped organize a legal bills fundraiser for the mom, Heather Hieronymus, on a website called savingchase.org. He says although the court's ruling clears the way, he doesn't think Chase's circumcision is inevitable. Quote, "The medical community could still stand up for the boy and refuse to do it," Friedman said Friday, after hearing the case may have reached a legal dead end. Another activist, Rebecca Wald of Fort Lauderdale, cringes at the thought of the boy being circumcised. Quote, "It's unfortunate the court decided the way it did," Wald said. "Circumcision is bad enough. But when you have a 4-year-old boy who is terrified to lose part of his penis and will remember it for the rest of his life, it's insanity." Wald has reported the year-long court struggle on her website, beyondthebris.com. She advocates a ceremony called a Brit Shalom, an alternative to the traditional Jewish custom. Neither the boy's mother nor father, Dennis Nevis, are Jewish. But Wald said she felt compelled to get involved because of what's happening here is so egregious. Attorneys for the mom and the dad have declined to comment about the case. The dad has said he believes circumcision is just the normal thing to do. Records in Palm Beach County Circuit Court and the 4th District Court of Appeals in West Palm Beach offer a detailed accounting of the dispute between the unmarried parents. It boiled down to 3 key developments. On January 2012, Hieronymus of Boynton Beach and Nemus of Boca Raton agreed to a court-approved parenting plan. This plan made the father responsible for arranging the circumcision and indicated the mother can accompany the minor if she chooses. The father told the court he decided to pursue the circumcision in December 2013 when the boy was 3, after he said he noticed his son was urinating on his leg. The father said the boy's pediatrician had diagnosed a condition called phimosis, which prevents retraction of the foreskin, but a urologist later disagreed with that finding. In May, Circuit Judge Jeffrey Dana Gillen offered the mother to comply with the signed plan and circumcision because, quote, there's no reason not to do so. The judge also warned her not to lead her son to, quote, believe she is opposed to or... The judge also warned her not to lead her son to believe she was opposed to his being circumcised. On November 6th of this year, the appellate court, without comment, upheld Gillen's order, giving the green light to the circumcision. Friday's order again denied the mother. In an email Tuesday, the father's attorney told the Sun Sentinel it's a private family matter. They have previously blasted the mother in court for parading the child's face and name all over the internet, granting media interviews, and working with a Facebook page called Chase's Guardians. Over the years, the American Academy of Pediatrics has taken different views about circumcision, usually performed by a doctor in the first few days of life. The Academy's 2012 policy statement does not recommend universal newborn circumcision. This is a difficult one for many people. I think the real question is, who owns you? And when do you own yourself? Does a young newborn infant boy have the ability to decide whether or not he wants to keep part of his penis?
Liberty activists around the country are starting to realize politics alone won't set us free. So what will? At Liberty on the Rocks, we believe the answer starts with living your principles, spreading ideas, and connecting with those around you. By starting a Liberty on the Rocks network, you can make a difference by uniting libertarian thinkers. Find out how much fun it is to build your local network from the ground up. Visit libertyontherocks.org today to get started.
What if the key to achieving liberty in your lifetime was to move together with others who think like you? Liberty activists are joining the Free State Project, which is over 70% of the way to its goal of 20,000 participants. And they're already making the move to New Hampshire. The successes are piling up and are proving the Free State Project is a real movement and no longer just a great idea. When you're planning your move, consider Keene. Keene is famous for its civil disobedience and non-cooperation, and there's plenty of political opportunity as well. From demonstrations and vigils to outreach and volunteering, there's a lot going on in Keene. Keene is the liberty media capital of the world, with television, talk radio, and more, all originating here. Though it's more than just activism, with regular social events each week. See what's happening at freekeene.com and get connected with video, audio, free books, a forum, and activist tools you can download and use in your area at freekeene.com. That's freekeene.com.
Did you know that you can listen to LRN.FM 24/7 via our free-to-air satellite channel? From Mexico to Canada, our signal covers nearly all of North America. All you need is a view of the southern sky, an affordable receiver, and a dish as small as 30 inches. There are no monthly fees. Learn more at sat.lrn.fm. Plus, if you're a broadcaster or want to be one, this is a good delivery method for our content. See our coverage map and get details at sat.lrn.fm. That's sat.lrn.fm.
Shiny badges on your jacket. Shiny badges.
This is Davi Barker from ShinyBadges.com, and I just want to personally apologize for airing a jingle week after week, month after month, that turned out to be such an infectious brainworm. So to make it up to you, I'm offering a free gift. The next time you make a purchase at ShinyBadges.com, write worms in the transaction comments, and I'll send you something weird.
Here's a chance to do a little activism while you're cruising Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. Between the LOL cats, the recipes, the hot girls, and the inspirational sunrise memes, Free Talk Live's posts pass by your newsfeed. Like them, comment. It gives us more exposure. If you don't see our posts, click like at facebook.freetalklive.com and then hover over it to click Get Notifications. It's an easy way to spread the ideas of liberty a bit further. I know you're busy, but you can spare that 1/10 of a calorie it takes to click on something. facebook.freetalklive.com.
Since time began, tyrants have taken aim at personal liberties. Now there's a movie that aims back.
The government has no more right to tell us what to put in our bodies than they have to take our guns or tell us what books we can read.
6 drug police were eaten by bears while raiding a marijuana farm.
On your knees, you dirty hippies!
Jesus.
On your knees!
What's the problem, officer?
Today, many cops who enforce pot laws do so only because it provides them with cushy jobs, good benefits, and a chance to push people around.
I was an undercover narcotics officer. The drug war is nothing but a farce.
The Second Amendment says you gotta keep you and your gat intact.
Guns and Weed, The Road to Freedom. A film by Michael W. Dean and Nima Badavi.
DVD available now at gunsandweed.com or on Amazon. That's gunsandweed.com. Makes the perfect gift. Remember, that's gunsandweed.com.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at LRN.FM.
Yeah. This is Peace News. Welcome back to the final segment of the show. Of course, we'll be back on Thursday evening from 10 to midnight Eastern Standard Time on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM. Now we turn to a story from The Guardian. Don't have much time to cover any of the stories in depth. Just want to get the news. All the news that's fit to print. Here we go. The underwear bomber was working for, you guessed it, the CIA. Well, according to TheGuardian.com, Paul Harris and Ed Pilkington write in New York that a would-be underwear bomber involved in a plot to attack a U.S.-based jet was in fact working as an undercover informer with Saudi intelligence and the CIA. The revelation is the latest twist in an increasingly bizarre story about the disruption of an apparent attempt by Al-Qaeda to strike at high-profile American targets using a sophisticated device hidden in the clothing of an attacker. The plot, which the White House said on Monday had involved the seizing of an underwear bomb by authorities in the Middle East sometime in the last 10 days, had caused alarm throughout the U.S. It had also been linked to a suspected U.S. drone strike in Yemen, where 2 Yemeni members of Al-Qaeda were killed in a missile attack on their car on Sunday, one of them a senior militant, Fahd Mohammed Ahmed Al-Koso. But the news of the individual at the heart of the bomb plot was in fact an informer for U.S. intelligence is likely to raise just as many questions as it answers. Citing U.S. and Yemeni officials, Associated Press reported that the unnamed informant was working undercover for the Saudis and the CIA when he was given the bomb, which was of new non-metallic type aimed at getting past airport security. The informant then turned the device over to his handlers and has left Yemen, the officials told the news agency. The LA Times, which first broke the story that the plot had been a sting operation, said that the bomb plan had also provided the intelligence leads that allowed the strike on Koso. Earlier, John Brennan, Barack Obama's top counterterrorism advisor and former CIA official, told ABC's Good Morning America that authorities are, quote, confident that neither the device nor the intended user of this device pose a threat to us. U.S. officials have said the plot was detected in its early stages and that no American airliner was ever at risk. The FBI is conducting forensic tests on the bomb as a first step towards discovering whether it would have cleared existing airport scanning systems. Dianne Feinstein, the Democrat senator for California, who heads the Senate Intelligence Committee, gave an early hint when she said she had been briefed about the device, which she called, quote, undetectable. But AP quoted an unnamed U.S. official as saying current detection methods probably would have spotted the shape of the explosive device, at least in the last version. Well, this is the news. We could go on and talk about all the things that they discovered, but that's the bottom line. It's like, oh, hey, this guy who, you remember around Christmas when the underwear bomber came out and it was like, oh, we need a justification for all of these underwear naked body scanner things to roll out. And then I think it was George Bush hired one of his crony friends to roll out these scanners that he himself built or his company builds. And, you know, they were charging exorbitant prices that only the government would pay to roll out these machines that nobody wanted, manned by people that nobody asked for. And they molest children and take naked pictures of you. I mean, could it really get any more Kafka-esque? I can't imagine. Next, we got to turn to a story of an undercover cop who pulls a gun on peaceful protesters and journalists. And for those of you who are watching along at PeaceNewsNow.com/live, take a look at some of these pictures of this crazed undercover agent as he points a gun at these protesters and indeed at the very journalists who are taking his picture. Who is the man pointing a gun at photographer in this studio in this photo from last night's protests in Oakland and Berkeley? And why is he aiming his weapon at photographers and protesters? Asks Zini Jardin of boingboing.net. The answer? Well, demonstrations around the country continue in response to recent high-profile killings of unarmed black men and boys. During protests in the San Francisco Bay Area cities of Berkeley and Oakland last night, and this wasn't last night, this was reported on December 11th, so that would have been Wednesday of this week. 2 participants were identified as undercover police by the crowd after the officers posing as protesters were outed by actual protesters. Good job, guys. One of the undercover cops drew a weapon. Both officers then began to arrest protesters. In the photo above, one of the infiltrators or undercovers aims his loaded gun directly at Reuters photographer Noah Berger. Freelance reporter Courtney Harrop was storyfied a series of eyewitness posts from protesters and journalists who witnessed the undercover agent's activity, which reportedly included encouraging protesters to loot and commit other crimes before the agents were outed. Here's what she wrote. 2 officers, both dressed as civilians and wearing bandanas to cover up their faces, were walking with the group when the demonstrators started pointing at them and yelling, "Hey, they're undercover cops! They're cops!" Oakland Police Lieutenant Chris Bolton wrote on Twitter Thursday morning that the officer was not an Oakland police officer. Bolton said Oakland police were the first to respond to the scene on a report from another agency. Bolton wrote, quote, "That outside agency has been notified to provide details and address concerns." One Berkeley resident, Dylan, who declined to give his last name, said he pulled off the officer's bandana. 2 policemen started to walk away, but the protesters persisted, screaming at the 2 undercover cops. One of the officers pushed a protester aside. The man responded by pushing back and then tackled the officer tackled him onto the ground, handcuffing him. Okay, so here's where I have to interject and say, big no-no, guys. I mean, when the cops are walking away, victory, good job, you've won. Take their pictures, walk and ask them questions, but screaming at them, trying to commit acts of violence. The man responded by pushing back. I don't think so. That's not going to work out well. And of course, it didn't. The officer tackled him to the ground and put him under arrest. The crowd, incensed, began to gather around them. The second officer pulled out his gun and pointed it at the crowd. More officers quickly arrived and dispersed the crowd. There's tweets, some more photographs from the protests. It was mayhem. You can check it all out at boingboing.net. Now we turn to our final story of the evening. From Judge Andrew Napolitano. All torture is criminal under all circumstances. If the allegations in the CIA torture report are true, We have war criminals, perjurers, computer hackers, and thugs on the government payroll. When the head of the CIA's torture unit decided to destroy videotapes of his team's horrific work, he unwittingly set in motion a series of events that led to the release this week of the most massive, detailed documentation of unlawful behavior by high-ranking government officials and intentional infliction of pain on non-combatants by the U.S. states government since the Civil War era. Here is the backstory. One of the reasons repeatedly stated by President George W. Bush for the American invasion of Iraq in 2003 was the maintenance of torture rooms by Saddam Hussein. While making this very argument, Bush was secretly authorizing CIA agents to engage in similar unlawful behavior for similar purposes, intelligence and deterrence. Bush sounded credible when he claimed that his administration adhered to federal and international legal standards. He knew that he could make this claim because the torturers were sworn to secrecy, as were their congressional regulators. The CIA charter permits Congress to regulate the CIA in secret. Congress has established 2 secret congressional committees, one from the Senate and one from the House, to serve as monitors and regulators of CIA activities. Gee, do you think they're bought and paid for? The stated reason for the secrecy is to keep our enemies from knowing what the CIA is doing. The effect of the secrecy has been a muzzled Congress, lied to by law-breaking and rogue CIA officials. Until now. That's it. You're going to have to read the rest on your own. You can get the article at reason.com or in the show notes of this episode at PeaceNewsNow.com. Until next time, we'll join you Thursday. Catch Cop Block Radio tomorrow, 10 to midnight at LRN.FM. We're going to have another great episode. It's our holiday episode, our last one until Christmas and the new year. So stay tuned. We'll take your calls about cops. There's a lot to talk about. Peace.
Hey guys, Mark Claire here, lionsofliberty.com, where we strive to advance the ideas of liberty daily. We bring you Morning Roar. That's right, every Monday to Friday.
All right. Thank you for listening. Those of you who are still following along on YouTube, I'm just going to disconnect from LRN.FM, so I'm no longer hearing the feed in my ears. And let's see here. Disconnect from current. There we go. Oh, and that stopped the recording, but I'm still broadcasting over here. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, kick some Bitcoin my way. You can do that with this fancy QR code here on the screen. Just put your phone up to it, scan it with your Bitcoin wallet, and boom, you send me 50 cents or whatever you think this episode's worth. I won't scoff at any amount. So thank you for your Satoshis. They're very much appreciated. So I was just going through a story of Judge Andrew Napolitano, and he has an amazing writing style where he's just slamming the government for their torture. I mean, it doesn't really get worse. They're doing just the worst things imaginable, torturing people in dungeons, salt pits, killing people who are completely innocent, not like losing track of how many people they're torturing. It's really amazing. So let's hear what Dick Cheney had to say when he was questioned about this by Meet the Press. He seems completely unfazed by one particular question. This man died while being tortured. And this is what Dick Cheney has to say about it.
The word on your show, it may be family. It's a crock. It's not true. And
I've read more the report.
I've read parts of it. Not the whole report hasn't even been released.
Right. All 6,000 to 500 pages. This is the executive summary.
Is a summary. Go read what the directors of the agency said about the report. They were extremely critical of it, as were the Republicans who served on the committee. It's a flawed report. It didn't begin to approach what's required by way of responsible oversight.
Does it plant any seed of doubt in you, though?
No.
No seed of doubt at all. All of this information in here, no seed of doubt that whether this worked or not.
It worked. It absolutely did work.
Let me ask you, what do you say to Gul Rahman? What do you say to Suleiman Abdallah? What do you say to Khalid al-Masri? All three of these folks were detained. They had these interrogation techniques used on them. They eventually were found to be innocents. They were released. No apologies. Nothing. What do we owe them? Well, what does it make? Does this? I mean, let me go to Gul Rahman. He was chained to the wall of his cell, doused with water, froze to death in CIA custody, and it turned out it was a case of mistaken identity.
Right. But the problem I have is with all the folks that we did release that ended up back on the battlefield. Of the 600 and some people who were released out of Guantanamo, 30% roughly ended up back on the battlefield. Today, we're very concerned about ISIS. Terrible new terrorist organization. It is,
and he jumps right back into the new boogeyman. So I want to pause here and just point out a couple of interesting things about Dick Cheney's choice of words here. He's asked a question about an innocent man who is tortured to death. And he says, well, I'm not really concerned about that. What I am concerned about, the problem for me is that there are some people who were let go, who are guilty. And, you know, the American justice system, at least as it was explained to me as a youngster, was that it's better that 1,000 guilty men go free than one innocent man suffer the penalties of the loss of his freedom or worse, death. This is a man who is killed completely innocent, and here's Dick Cheney. Meh. You see, the problem is that some of the guilty ones went free and ended up back on the battlefield. Of course, yeah, I don't need to explain to you about this guy's history of truth-telling and his problem with lies. But I just think it's amazing the amount of truth-telling that he does give the mainstream media. I mean, here he is on Meet the Press and national show on NBC. It's long-standing. There's tons of people going to be watching this, showing the clip over and over again. And he has the audacity to not even apologize, not backtrack, not admit any wrongdoing. Just, I don't know, I'm concerned, you know, we should have tortured more people. Maybe that's the answer. That, you know, I'm not concerned that, what was it? Like, they lost track of how many people they tortured. They don't even know. I mean, anyway, let's return to his final answer here, because he's about to get grilled again. The question is, I'm not going to let you go so easy.
And he was in the custody of the U.S. military in Iraq, in Camp Bucca. He was let go, and now he's out leading the terror attack against the United States. I'm more concerned with bad guys who got out and were released than I am with a few that, in fact, were innocent.
25% of the detainees, though, 25% turned out to be innocent. They were.
So where are you going to draw the line, Chuck? How are you going to know?
Is that too high? Is that you're okay with that margin for?
I have no problem as long as we achieve our objective, and our objective is to get the guys who did 9/11, and it is to avoid another attack against the United States.
That reminds me of an interesting quote. You know, all this talk about torture, there are some people saying that so it reminds me of the quote, "Death is not the worst of all evils." And I'm going to look up this quote real quickly while I'm live streaming here. It's where New Hampshire gets its motto, live free or die. Death is not the worst of all evils. And it comes from John Stark, who in a letter to his comrades wrote, live free or die. Death is not the worst of all evils. And, you know, it's true. There are some things that are worth dying for, and then torture. Oh my gosh, some people would rather be dead. They beg for their own death, and you know, it makes me wonder if maybe that was merciful. If you know, if they are, if their end was actually a positive thing. It's horrible to even think about, but you know, of course, I would prefer these people live and have peaceful, happy, productive lives, and don't harm anyone, never have any harm come to them. But gosh, if the alternative is to suffer the rest of your life in a torture tent, maybe lights out is the best way to go. Yikes! So scary to even think about. What are we going to round out this evening with? I think we need to end on something positive. Let's see. We've got a story: a woman jailed for saying "fuck the police." A Harvard grad pulled over and ticketed for playing "fuck the police." Uber responding to the hostage crisis in Sydney. Oh, how about this one? Congress quietly ends a ban on medical marijuana. Did you hear about this? LA Times reports that. Let's see, tucked deep inside of the 1,603-page federal spending measure is a provision that effectively ends the federal government's prohibition on medical marijuana and signals a major shift in drug policy. The bill's passage over the weekend marks the first time Congress has approved nationally significant legislation backed by legalization advocates. It brings almost to a close 2 decades of tension between the states and Washington over medical use of marijuana. Under the provision, states where medical pot is legal would no longer need to worry about federal drug agents raiding retail operations. Agents would be prohibited from doing so. Yay! All right, so that's something to cheer about. I'm excited that these raids supposedly are going to end. You know, when the government says they're going to do something, they don't always do it. So I will be vigilant to watch that they are accountable for their actions. But who knows? You know, the real solution is to advance freedom in your own life, live as free as possible. And as Camus said, let me see, let's pull up another Albert Camus quote, live, right, so free, right. The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. Peace.